Well, this is a painted turtle, and as you can see down here, first of all, he's still peeing here. Must have scared the pee out of him, but those are turtle eggs, and something got into them, probably a raccoon. And there's the bottom of him anyway. That's where he was just minutes ago. And it's just more proof to you how many critters are around this place. I got so many critters, A, I can't shoot them all. B, I do try to trap them all in these have-a-heart traps, which means they're not killed. And then we drive them up the road about 5 miles and let them go into a different place. And I'll make that in the next video or two, because we have quite a few footage of that. Welcome to Dr. Russ and Dr. Paula's Air Rifle Adventures. You know, we started 4 years ago, and I thought we were going to do about 6 for some grandkids. And today is number 141, Dr. Paula tells me. But as we did them over these 4 years, I discovered that there are basically, that I've identified, 5 passions for air guns. The good news is, at my age, I've enjoyed those 5 passions, and I'm trying to share some tips with you, as well as some places of bargains. We don't have sponsors to pay any salary, so whatever I say, it's right off my experience list. Let's just quickly review the 5 passions, and then I'm going to take you and show you a whole table full of accessories that help enhance those passions. I think the first one that all of us got started in was with probably a Springer rifle and just doing some plinking around the backyard. The second one was we got a little bit further out and started doing some target practicing, anywhere from 10 yards out to 30, trying to get a nice good group into that target. If we got out a little further, another third passion was trick shots. Shooting cards, splitting cards, shooting eggs, shooting golf balls. Been there, done that. In the last one, I was shooting some 2-liter bottles of pop. They weren't popped, it was compressed air. They made quite an explosion with flour in them when they went off. But one of you viewers, we've got like 1.5 million viewers, wrote to me on the comments section from Denmark and said, "We don't do that in Denmark. That 2-liter bottle has a 50-cent deposit on it." Fortunately, here in America, or rather in Michigan, it's just a 10-cent deposit on all size containers that held a carbonated beverage. If we got beyond trick shots, we got into maybe some serious competition, and I've been there too. And lastly, and probably the one I enjoy the most today, is large boar hunting. Out in Wyoming, hunting some elk, Alaska, some bear, certainly whitetails here in the Midwest, blacktail mule deers out west. But no matter what your passions you have, 1, 2, or all 5, you're having fun. And my job is to help you have even more fun. Let's go up and see some accessories that might help that too. Before I get into accessories, there's some of you who like some humor, and Reader's Digest said humor is the best medicine, and I think maybe it is. But this fella came to work, he had this big swollen red nose, and everybody said, "What happened to you?" And he said, "I smelled a brose, a brose." Everybody kind of thought for a moment and said, "There's bee in rows. And he said, well, there was a bee in this rose. I'd like to tell you that these are all of my accessories, but I have probably this is probably a third of all that I have, but I do enjoy these 5 passions. We're going to be talking about these accessories. Whether you use fixed sights or red dots or scopes, I'll get into a few here and actually mount some for you. I wanted to remind you that when you sight in a gun, and I don't care if it's throwing a rock, shooting a marble in a slingshot, if it's a BB or pellet, or even a copper-coated large bore powder rifle, that really when you sight in, and so many people miss this, but when you sight in, what you're going to do is realize that projectile, whatever it is, because of gravity, it's going to go up, be a little high, and then it's going to come down and ultimately hit the ground. The question here is, at what point would it go right into a bullseye, like here? A lot of my 25 caliber pellet rifles will do this at about 30 feet, 30 yards, and I zero them right in here. But out there at about 60, 65 yards, you can see that they're shooting high. And that's okay, because if a squirrel, something big came, and I know that it shoots 2 inches high at 60 yards, that's okay too. I just aim. I rather aim 2 inches lower, and I still get him. And then out there about 85, 90 yards, they come right back into the bullseye. Maybe not quite as tight a group as they were here close up, but that'll take out some destructive critter easy enough. Now, that's what everything does. And you need to have a piece of tape right here on the shoulder stock or on the butt stock of anything you shoot, and know what these 3 things are. Is this 20 yards? Is this 50 yards? Is this 80 yards? What is it? So that you know those spots. And then when you go out, you're ready. A recent extreme passion I have is night hunting. Certainly night vision. Here's a nice case. This comes from CB Life. I think it was around $320. Keep in mind that if you use our code, Dr. Russ 15, they knock 15% off that price. But this is a rather interesting, they only have, I think, 1, maybe 2. But this works as a pair of binoculars. It's not just for daytime viewing, 10 power, which is very good, but then it has 8 digital power beyond that. So they can be very telescopic. Here are 2 dials here for focusing, and as you can see, there's 2 lights on the end here, but one is to use the binoculars, if you will, and this is for infrared, and this shoots out the red beam so that it can be seen at night. Now they advertise 1,000 feet. That's pretty doggone far. I've used them, I'd say maybe 600-700 feet, but wow, that's quite a distance. All the dials are right here on top. It's rubber coated, but in here it's not just aluminum, it's aircraft grade. If you know anything about aircraft, you know how strict those requirements are. And you can mount it to a scope, or rather a tripod. On the back, you get a full 3-inch screen of what it is you're looking at. And you can change the brightness. I have to tell you, between daytime and getting into dusk, and then late at night, there's some different, I think it's 8 or 10 different levels of brightness that you can use, and you're going to use them. Anyway, night vision. Well, I'm going to get into some optics here in a minute, but first of all, let me show you. There's some guns you don't want to put optics on them, or not at least the optics you think. For example, guns that are semi or full auto. I wouldn't put a scope on them. It's not going to do you any good. And a number of companies like Hatson has a real strong hard pull here. So all of that doesn't work real well with target practicing or competitive shots. Another thing, so I'll just leave these fixed sights on them, and Hatson has them. You can take them off if you want. Now what you might want to do is this flashlight. Now this isn't just any normal flashlight. There's a laser beam in there, if you've seen it, and of course it hooks to anything here for on the rifle. Particularly if you've got a nice side one, you can put it here. You can put it here on the bottom, down here, and this is 1,000 lumens. Let me tell you something. This is a weapon all by itself. If I shine this in your eyes, you're blind for several minutes. Here on the side, it can be adjusted to be just a flashlight. There's your flashlight with a laser, and then here is just the laser. But in addition to this on and off here of just tightening left and right, this has another way to illuminate. This can be screwed in and tightened on the back, and this can be put anywhere on the gun that you like. And what I find interesting about this will turn it on or turn it off. But this long slide here, this is just to tap it for a second, see what you need to see, and be off of it. You can hold it down. If you tap it twice in rapid succession, you get a strobe light. And that really hurts the critter's eyes and human eyes too when they're downrange. So flashlights can be defensive weapons, and they can be very helpful in a night shoot. We're going to start off about all these accessories that help with your passion with air guns. We're going to start with scopes. But before we get too depth with them, I need to talk about something that makes them simple for you. First of all, you'll usually see what power is down here. In this case, this is a variable power and goes from 6 clear up to 24 power. When you're walking through the woods, you want to stay at the lowest power of any scope, because that gives you the greatest view. And if you see a deer, a raccoon, a squirrel, you want to be able to pull the gun up and find it quickly. Now, if you need to see it closer, then you can start fussing with making it more powerful. But for carry purposes, always have it on low power. Inside here is the mechanisms for clicking, in this case, sideways, left or right. Underneath here, it's up or down. And I'll show you about that in a minute. But for now, just know this. At 4 clicks, that's 1/4 of an inch at 100 yards. Now, some of you say, well, I never shoot at 100 yards. Okay. Well, you just need to know a couple of clicks will start moving it in that direction. And you might have to play with it a couple of clicks before you get what you want, but you'll do it. Let me give you a little example. This was my first target with a gun, and I'm aiming for here, but I'm shooting to the right and I'm shooting high. So I had to do a couple things. I had to do some clicks down, and I had to do some clicks left. I also needed to settle down a little bit, and usually as you continue to shoot, at least I do, You do. And now I've got it down. I've moved it a little left, but I didn't move it enough. So on the third try, and believe it or not, there's 3 pellets that went right through that. I think you can see that here. But 3 went through here to give me that bullseye. And now that scope, and it can be iron sights that you're sighting in. The same concept works. To get your iron sights, or get a scope, or a red dot, or a laser on a flashlight, this would be your process of getting it into the bullseye. Let me talk about a few differences. Scopes are filled with nitrogen, and what this tube full of nitrogen does is it keeps them from fogging up, particularly if it's damp, humid, rainy weather, ruining the scope. And how did that moisture get in? Well, it has to get in here where the scope lenses are, and that's why you need a good aircraft aluminum, and you need a good manufacturer. And then there's that old saying, you get what you pay for. Now, all of CV Life scopes are made of aircraft aluminum, and they start from $30 up to, I think in this case, this is about $380. Don't forget about our 15% discount. When you see a scope having 3 knobs, well, 2 are for the left and right adjustment and the up and down. And the third one is always to insert a battery in here. One of these CR2032s, which is one of the most popular batteries you can get, CR2032. I think the other one's CR2025. I don't think CV Life uses those, and you put that in here. And this $300 scope, which I was going to put on a powder gun of mine for shooting elk at 500 yards, I think I'm going to put it on an air gun. And as you can see right here, here's one of the reasons. First of all, what you want in the scope is that once you zero it in, you can make all of these adjustments so that they lock into that. And now if you're going to do any fooling around, you can always come back to that particular spot. But this one goes for range. And I can say, well, I've sighted in for 100 yards, but that elk is 300 yards. And so I can go out for that. Another nice feature is this extension here. This is just a hollow piece of aluminum. But what this does is it keeps that sun from coming in and glaring right onto the lens, which can put a glare on it and hurt your shooting. Something here that I'm not that happy with on CV Life, but they don't have what's called an AOL scope, adjustable at the objective lens. And this one does, as you can see. I can still put the sunshade on this, but this has the adjustable. And you'd say, well, I thought we focus it in back here. Yes, you do. But believe it or not, out at 100, 200, 300 yards, it's kind of nice to have this front. You'll find that there's a little variance there. And while air guns typically don't shoot out that far, you certainly need this for your powder guns. I think another thing is that we often spend as much on a scope or optics, red dots, as we do on the gun. And at first that says, whoa, what am I doing? This is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. But the truth is, these go forward, and you use them on lots of guns, as I do, which is kind of nice for that zero. Notice here too that these tubes are 2 different. A 30 millimeter, 1 inch, 30, 32. This is 34 mm wide. So the bigger the tube, the better the scope, in my estimation. Okay, now then, but that means also we've got to have the right rings to go on this, to mount on the gun. So the next thing we're going to do is mount a scope on a gun, and let's just see how easy that is. Well, we're going to mount one of my favorite CV Life scopes to this crawl puncher breaker and show you just how easy it is. Let me just say a word about it. This CV Life scope is 4x16 by 50. And again, you want this big aperture opening here to let light in, because most trophy animals are moving right at the early morning and at late night. We certainly have the up and down, left and right adjustments here. That's easy enough. We also have a third knob here for the CR battery to go in, and this lights up. This lights up the crosshairs. But boy, do we have a lot of other stuff on here. First of all, we need another CR battery over here for this red dot, so that I can just pull it up real quick and use a red dot to shoot. And then here is a laser mounted on the side, because this allows 3 Picatinny rails on the sides. This scope's about $110, I think, and then you get a 15% discount. We don't need $20 or $30 worth of scope mounts. It comes with it. And mounting this scope to this crawl puncher breaker is quite easy. We just have these 2 screws and nothing more. And keep in mind, those screws have to fit into the Picatinny rail. So we might have to move it a hair, and then she settles down. I'm just doing the finger tight here, and she's steady, but a screwdriver is ultimately needed there to tighten it. Notice that we have the flip-up mounts, and you always want these to flip up. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that with that red dot right there. Maybe you don't even want it here on the front. Take it off. But what we have is that adjustable front forward lens, and there it's set for 30 yards up to 50 and beyond, to make sure that the front and the back of this scope are working perfect with each other. Focus back here, and of course here lies the power right in here. This scope is one of my favorite for air guns, but like I say, it'll end up costing you $80 or $90. But by golly, what a beauty you have. You're not buying rings, you're not buying the red dots, you're not buying a laser. It's all included. Now keep in mind, when you mount a scope, I like mine to mount on this Picatinny rail about 2 inches from my eye. That's when I get the full picture. If I get closer or farther away, that picture gets too small or too big. So I want to be about 2 inches. Now for some, it's 3 inches. I heard about one fella, 4. But the point is, you might have to mount it a couple of times before you have it just right for you. Now, while that's the case with scopes, with red dots, that's not the case. For a rifle, it can be 8-9 inches away. With a pistol, it can be a couple of feet away. It doesn't really make any difference, because your eye can be anywhere, just as long as that red dot is on the target. And you're going to see it clear no matter what. Now some of these lenses could be even up to 10 power, often 2 to 3 power. But that red dot, once she's been sighted in, this distance isn't an issue like it was with the scope. Now keep in mind, I don't spend my money on scopes on springers. That might just be my problem. If you've got a good springer and you're shooting stuff bullseyes out to 30 yards, good for you, and maybe you do need a scope, and you'll be able to go forward and take that scope to even more expensive guns in the future. But I think all springers and an awful lot of brake barrels are going to need this $10 attachment. The good news is it's available everywhere. It's available on the internet, but it's also available at CV Life. And what you need is it's a conversion. It converts that 10 millimeter, what they call a dovetail scope mount, up to the 20, 21, 22 millimeter. Those are interchangeable, by the way, on the Picatinny on top. So you could add some money here if that's the way you're going to go. Another thing I like to do on the sighting, this is from CV Life. It says FZ Shoot, but that's all part of CV Life. But you also mount a nice balance, and that gun has to be balanced. You've heard this from me before, but if here's your scope and there's the barrel, and that gun is slightly, and I'm exaggerating, but you come over here, you can see that where you're aiming at this pellet or bullet, it's two different places. So it's very, very helpful. I'm shooting a Hubin down in Florida, and they actually built this balance into the rifle stock. So it is important. CV Life has them. Again, this is all made out of aircraft aluminum. It's got everything on it. I really like it. I've had all kinds of binoculars. One of the reasons you want a good pair of binoculars with good lenses, good glass, is if you're going to use them, as I do during the day, boy, after about 2 hours, if you've got bad glass, your eyes are going to begin to hurt. And then your eyes aren't worth a hoot once it comes dusk and you really need them then. Again, I've shopped fieldsupply.com. I've gone direct to crossman.com, hatsandusa.com, but I've not been happy with accessories, often buying refurbished ones. But CV Life comes along with brand new, and they're better than the refurbished. This is excellent lens. As you can see here, it's a 10 by 42. It certainly has these scope covers to keep the dust out. You only sight in one eye. And once you get that eye in, and it looks good, then all you ever do is play with this center dial. And the center dial is for range, but it stays focused, whether it's 1,000 yards out or 10 yards out. This is for that, but this is to get it into focus. The front also has some high quality rubber covers and a nice padded neck strap. These things were 80, 90 bucks, and then the discount. I thought it was excellent value. Now, we've talked a little bit about red dots, but I really impressed with it. I haven't found the gun I want to mount it on yet, but first of all, it's a quick mount. And what I like about it is it still has the fixed sights, with one of them being these fiber optics. But it also has the crosshairs, a battery, and the up and down, so that you can sight it in exactly the way you want it and mount it. And I don't know, this is $80, $90 minus the discount too. So this is a scope and fixed mounts all in one. I'll let you know when I find the right air gun for it. Go on site to cvlife.com. You'll find all types of scopes and all types of everything, slings, you name it. But you'll also find these red dots. They're being used for pistols and rifles. And I think this one's about 30 bucks. And here's a way to change what you see. Are we going to see just a red dot? Are we going to see red crosshairs? Are we going to see something that a red dot and a circle? are we going to see the something that looks like kind of a star exploding? So you have whatever image you want, and it really doesn't matter where your head is, that dot's going to stay right on the bullseye. So wherever your head is isn't the important thing. Just put the dot on the target. And it's quick acquisition too. So, man, you get it up on there, the dot's where it's supposed to be, and you've sighted it in, boom, there you go. So it too has the adjustments. There's a hex head for the up and down. Here's a hex head for the left and right. And here's the 2 hexes to mount it to any Picatinny rail. Or if you had to get this conversion piece, that too. Excellent value, all metal, hard metal for $30. Well, on an earlier video, you saw us use this Humerex strike point. It's a multi-pump pistol for 22 caliber. I had to file off this hood because you just couldn't see that fiber optic if I hadn't. And I did a quick mount here, all again from CV Life. Here's a laser and a scope and a quick mount, 1 screw, and it's high, and you just mount it there, and that's mounted for you. Last week I was shooting this Humerex Viper, and I put a CV Life red dot on it, and here is the plus or minus. Here's to sight it in, here's for the battery, and not only can you mount it high with a see-through passage here, so you can still use your iron sights, which are very accurate, or you can use this mount and it sits flatter on the gun and you won't use these. I didn't explain last week on this new Evanix Viper 30 caliber, you know, if you put that code in, you get this $130 free. What I did not explain was, here's a Donnie FL silencer, fits on. In other words, these threads are universal for just about any suppressor or moderator you want. It makes kind of a long gun, but it works. Okay. Another thing you can get from CV Life are these straps. Now here's your conventional padded strap with the swivel mounts on it down there. But sometimes a rifle just doesn't come suited for those swivel mounts. And so here is what they call, I think they call it the metal hook, but one on each end, and you can mount it all at one spot on a bullpup. Just let it hang here like a pistol. You also want a sling that has adjustable straps. You know, some of you are real tall, some of you are real short. You want straps on your sling. Some are using it on a gun that just isn't gonna use anything at all. A shotgun is often what I'm talking about, but there are some air guns. And so here is no sling swivels at all, but what we have is these straps, which are adjustable, and you put one over the barrel and one back by the neck of the stock, and now you have a gun that you can take into the woods for miles. You may need some of these swivels here. Be sure you get the right kind of swivel. Here's a side mounted swivel. Here's another swivel that just, it mounts to the Picatinny rail on the bottom. Here's another swivel that mounts to the Picatinny rail. I was talking about target practicing earlier. This is one of 2 rangefinders that I have. Very, very important. You know, more recently, I have run into snakes. I ran into a turtle there at the beginning of this video, but this can pick up a snake and hold it out harmless from you. I got this at some sporting goods store. It was like under $20. And you may remember, if you've watched all of our videos, I was in a blind. It was only about waist high, but it was bramble bushes. And the rancher out in Wyoming had taken me to show me where it was, and we both sat in there, and he squatted. And he was telling me, watch this area, don't worry about that area, kind of let me know where the elk might come from. And I looked down, and he's in a squatted position. It's October, and out comes this rattlesnake, but he's moving really slow. He's been already starting to hibernate, but he came out of hibernation. And I took my gun, and I just pounded that head, and I said, don't move. And then I hit this. So he says, I'm good for saving his sex life anyway. In addition to sound, I've got an FX velocity meter here, and it's about $120 on the internet. You probably should always have, if you're in an area with poison snakes, we only have one type here in Michigan, a Mississauga. But you could be hours from a hospital. And who knows, they may or may not have the right venom vaccine for you. So you could be in trouble. So what you can get out of that arm or leg with one of these could save your life. Let's also talk about bipods. Well, if you're just going to be target practicing, you can probably just use some sandbags, which I do often here. But I also go hunting. And so I use a variety of different bipods, as you can see here. Now, these bipods, things you're looking for is just how high can they hold the gun up. Number two, is it a quick disconnect? You may get into position, and using a bipod is not what you want to do. So you want to take it off, boom, it's gone, and now you're shooting without the bipod. Another thing that you want to do, if you're in competition, is, and this is the set that I did this with, if the gun is like this, your bipod is to go forward. This gives greater stability on those tables that are used in competitive shooting. Most just do the straight up, straight back, straight forward. How did these do the middle shot like this? I had to get a little Dremel tool, and I had to grind a spot. I sent a note to CV Life. I said, tell your boys they need to do that, to include. It not only offers some other different height adjustments, but it's really required in competitive shooting. You can have all kinds of bipods. You need to know what you need. Some of them can make the adjustment like this, so you can kind of turn the gun. Others, you turn the gun this way, tilt the gun, whatever. You kind of pay what you get. You get what you pay for. But definitely check it out and make sure. I mean, there's some of these that the legs go out this farther. Get what you need and what your budget can afford. Well, I think I covered all of these things here. I hope this was a help to you, to let you know what you want to increase the passion you have in whichever one of those chapters of air gunning you use. Until then, know that we love to see you leave us a thumbs up. We love to see you leave a comment, even if it's, hey. I answer them. It might take me a week, but I do it. And we love hearing from you. The reason we didn't stick with 6 videos was your comments. They appeared to be helpful. We have a lot of videos planned this coming year. Paula and I pray that there's some value in them for you. Okay, I think you're pretty well versed on using computers or smartphones, and I've mentioned a number of sources here. If you're going to really have to have a scope on a Springer, you're going to probably need to go to fieldsupply.com and get a refurbished Benjamin or Crossman. They call them CP scopes because they're built different. The Springer has a lot of kick to it, and so you want to go there probably to get one off that website. If you'd like to use CV Life and get these really good aluminum scopes, as you can see here, you go right up here to this CV Life, and then you can hit any of their products down along here. And I'll just hit one here. I'll hit all products. And here's your 2-point sling, but as you get into that website, well, there's my favorite scope right there. Lots of, here's a red dot with a scope, a red dot with a laser, and you can just go page to page. Now if you come over to this page here, and this is Patriot Airguns. Here is where I've been able to get the Evanics. This is where Jacob Jensen works, and as you can see, he's got a variety of sources here, and it'll show the site. This is actually the Viper X. I don't have this particular gun, but this is the short one. This is the short Viper air gun, probably better suited for concealed carry. Now, again, I'm not on their payrolls, but I think these are two great websites. If you use the Dr. Russ Airgun code, you're going to find that you get a discount, 15% at CV Life, and you get a free $130 suppressor at Patriot Airguns. Let me know if you do well.